There is always some bit of romance when Barcelona meets Athletic Club. The Basques, in their 125th year, I think are everything right and everything absolutely wrong about Spanish football. For me, that romance really dries up the moment I see Raul Garcia. Because God, I hate Raul Garcia. That may not be a headline, more like a preference, but here are the 5 headlines from Barcelona's 1-0 win over Athletic Club. One is overshadowed, and in the many years I've been doing this, there are a number of occasions where what's happening on the field that week just didn't feel as important as to what else was surrounding the club. Sometimes it's more about what's happening in the world, sometimes it's more about what's happening in my world, but in this case, it's what's happening in the world of FC Barcelona. And in this case, it's definitely Barca's world. The Negrera case and the charges that dropped this week have definitely made taking in the 90 minutes against Athletic Club without fearing for the long-term future of the club pretty difficult. As a programming note, the second podcast this week will be focused on that black cloud that hangs over the club. I want to make sure I give the proper time to fully understand how serious all of this should be taken by Culés. Right now, the answer is very serious, but I do want to take the time to fully understand that. So, in the meantime, let's talk about Athletic Club. Headline 2 is containing Nico. I know it feels like when you come to a Barcelona-based channel that you expect that the main character, or the tactics, or whatever it is, Xavi all the way down, the main focus should be about Barcelona, one of its players. But I want to start with Nico Williams Jr. today because I feel like he was the key between Ernesto Valverde making a return, well not to the Mames, but returning to face his old club, and then what Xavi had to do and how he had to deal with Nico Williams Jr. The expectation that Valverde would keep Nico on the right was wrong, as instead he chose to put Nico against Sergio Roberto on the left, which is probably a smart move of course. Nico Williams Jr. was 4 of 6 on his dribbles today, but he was also dribbled past 3 times. Because while Roberto didn't do well enough, Koundé did well over the top to help out Roberto. And then when Nico, because he wasn't as comfortable on the left, was moved over to the right, in theory to make him more comfortable, Balde made sure that didn't matter. And it felt like Balde had found the game by that point when that move was made. If Nico Williams Jr. does start on the right against Balde, when Barcelona hadn't found the game yet, maybe Balde would have been left out to dry. But he wasn't, because Balde was pretty excellent in this game. And a reminder that when Barcelona are playing just one game every week and Xavi doesn't have to rotate as much, Balde has taken the first choice spot at Barcelona's left back position, and there is no number 2 at the moment behind, yes, it's Alba and Marcos Alonso in theory, but Balde is surely number 1. Nico was moved back to the right for the dying moments of this game, and he probably should have scored in stoppage time, but Barcelona made sure they got out of this one alive. And the good news for Barca fans, if Nico was playing in a Blaugrana uniform that day, well, a lot of blame would have been heaped on him. So sometimes your opponent, you expect to hurt you, they can have a bad day too. 3 is beware the Lions of Mames. I know this game is pretty disappointing to watch. I think you do expect the Barcelona Athletic Club match to be nasty, full of fouls and all that gobbledygook, and this one was, but I also think some of the blame should go on Barcelona for starting this game improperly, not even with their 11 that was chosen. We can talk about the Sergio Roberto tactics, and I'll probably do more of that in the podcast tomorrow. But just in terms of Barcelona, finding the effort and getting up for the game, like they did in terms of getting fouled and being fouled and all that stuff, but the pace of the game was Athletic Club's. Barca allowed Athletic Club to decide how the game was played in that first half with their high press, taking advantage of sloppy Barca combinations. And it wasn't even necessarily the whole collective, I thought. That's why Barcelona, I think, survived without conceding the goal. It was one of those individuals in particular who struggled. Ferran Torres, not on the same page as so many of his other teammates. Ferran Torres and Lewandowski had their issues. Ferran Torres and Raphinha had their issues. Ferran Torres and Balde had their issues. Never a great sign for your left winger. Still, the first Barca chance came in the 17th minute. Young's disguise pass to Lewandowski, but the touch was too long. Lewandowski dispossessed more times in this game than anybody else, and more than double anybody else on the field. Athletic Club had their chances too. Ball goes under the bar. Athletic Club should have gone ahead in that moment because Raul Garcia got in front of Busquets, and Barcelona proved to be susceptible without Araujo on those aerial set pieces. And as was the case in their first matchup too, it felt like, of course, this game took on the personality, if you will, of Gabi with that hard-hitting style of his, fitting perfectly against Athletic Club. Getting fouled, not getting fouls called for him, and somehow, I don't know how he did it, but avoiding a yellow today. And also that insane play in the first half to throw himself at the ground to head the ball away. Definitely on the other side of that line of effort and recklessness. Even if you're giving 1,000,000%, if you're Gabi, if your teammates aren't fully being able to embrace the effort that you're giving and coming similar to the level of effort that you're putting out there, then you're just going to put yourself in a lot of danger. And it wasn't just Athletic Club who were frustrated and making the game frustrating. Too many times you saw Barca players asking for balls to feet without movement and not enough passes to feet. Barca kept hesitating on diagonal balls, and you can't hesitate against a pressing side like Athletic Club. Even if you keep 64% of possession, you've shut down that entire sequence, and they usually conceded yards back to Christensen, allowing Athletic Club to get back in the game. Which does make that first goal that Barca scored so important. because while they played at a close pace in the first half, that second half was a totally different story. Because 4 is contributions over moments, and I think you know where I'm going with this one, talking about Raphinha, whose original offside goal winds up getting overturned by VAR to say that he was onside, and the goal is good for the first goal of the game right before halftime. As good as the Raphinha part was, I first had to give credit to Busquets because he knew exactly what he needed to do to get the ball back to Raphinha, and Danny Garcia couldn't get his footing and fell for the fake. Raphinha was back onto it. Nico Williams Jr. also doing a poor job tracking back as he was trying to leak out for any counterattack. And again, it's Raphinha, contributing a goal or an assist. And it does feel like he'll catch up to Lewandowski for first before someone catches up to him in terms of second on the team in goal contributions. And it is more of what I said last week. Ferran Torres and Ansu Fati are still hoping for minutes, as young players do. But Raphinha can basically be silent for 45 minutes and then have one moment with the ball, which you usually expect that he's going to get wrong with his right foot, but then he gets one chance at net and it's in the back of the net. And that first touch, not being the best for Raphinha, didn't really trouble him too much on the shot. It's always great when Raphinha can finish with his right foot. The fear is obviously that he is too one-footed, so a right-footed goal is good to see. And for Ferran Torres and Ansu Fati, they're so far gone, even more than just the competition on the left, but it is really interesting to think about how Xavi's going to handle what happens when Dembele comes back and how he's going to handle Raphinha's minutes on the right. Because remember, Raphinha was a bench player or a rotation piece when Dembele was healthy and starting every game, because Raphinha, unlike Ferran and Ansu, on paper at least, can't play on the left. And 5 is VAR's clean sheet. Come the second half, as I said, Barcelona had their goal, and they knew the job needed to be done. And for Kool-Aids, that was, hey, you should probably score a second goal instead of trying to rely again on the road and the same mess on trying to survive and suffer and all those other words we want to use. But the counter argument is that Barca did what Barca have been good at doing this season, and that's slowing a game down to a speed that allows them to get the clean sheet. And a clean sheet without Araujo is more impressive than the ones with him. And I think that is a compliment to the way that Koundé defensively rebounded and Christensen was solid again, though this one probably wasn't fully deserved because there were moments for Athletic Club, and I would also have to clump Marcos Alonso and Sergio Roberto into those compliments, both of which I don't think deserved them today. Xavi, though, I think navigated the changes by Valverde pretty well here. He took off Ferran Torres after moving him to the middle to try to adjust with Athletic Club trying to put more bodies in the middle of the field and use less of those wings to Berenguer and Nico Williams Jr. Then he counters the additional attacking subs by Valverde by putting on Kessie for Ferran Torres. And even though Kessie didn't really have his best day at the office, it shifted their formation back to that four-man midfield and did solidify things while Barcelona were kind of taking the lion's share, pun intended, of the chances by Athletic Club in the second half. Now, there was a calamity of errors before Marcos Alonso came in that led to the free kick and Roberto yelled in the second, but Barca survived it, so no harm and only one foul. But the man of the match, because I haven't really talked too much about Barcelona players, it wasn't really anything great from anybody in the outfield today. It was a 1-0 win. We talked about the goal, gave some credit to Busquets, gave some credit to Raphinha, but definitely forgettable days for a lot of those outfield players. But, of course, it's ter Stegen. That's how he started the fall, and that's how he's continuing in the spring to be the best goalkeeper in Spain. Not Europe, but in Spain. 79th minute, a tremendous save from the German. It was the perfect height, sure, but strong hands, full extension, and then the offside anyway on the follow-up save, but that save was special too, even if it wouldn't have counted. And then finally, on the Athletic Club goal that was taken back, I can see this one both ways. De Jong lost it, we can poo-poo that all day. With Busquets too close to him, cannot lose it in that situation, also can't lose it that easily, but Barcelona were also too easily bypassed. And Alonso got beat by Inaki Williams' run. Awful positioning, not giving enough credit to the speed of Inaki Williams, letting him in behind, and ter Stegen tried to come out for it and just didn't work. Fortunately for Barcelona, though, a handball on Iker Muniain, so close to the shoulder, though, and probably a high boot on De Jong, but that doesn't affect the handball unless the ref would have felt like the boot affected Muniain's arm and hit it into the ball, but they said that wasn't the case. De Jong's foot was independent of Iker Muniain's arm, and that they said that it clearly hit the forearm and not just the shoulder, because if you do find the right freeze frame or the right video, you can see maybe it hit the shoulder, but they said that it clearly hit the forearm in an unnatural position, and that meant that that goal was negated. It is tough for Athletic Club, and going back to headline number 1, yeah, it's a tough moment for that to happen for FC Barcelona, because you feel like you won the game, you won the call, but it just feels bad on the day with everything that's going on. But even after that goal was taken off, the day wasn't done for Barcelona. Still in stoppage time, having to come up big. What a good stand by Koundé and company, but Nico Williams, as I said before, should have finished that one. But yet, again, it ends 1-0. Barcelona's 9th 1-0 win in the Liga this season, 19 clean sheets in 25 matches. And as far as that 1-0s, if they hit 12 at the end of this Liga campaign, that will be the most in the Liga history, and no team has had 9 or more and won the title. But talking strictly of today, that's 3 more points and 9 points ahead still in the Liga table. This week is huge for Barcelona, almost too much to talk about. As I kind of said before, the Negretti case needs its own focus, its own podcast, so the second half of this week is going to be dedicated to that. We're going to review this game tomorrow, and we're going to do a little Clasico preview later in the week. But again, Real Madrid on the weekend after they made their announcement today in relation to that Negretti case. So a lot going on in the world of FC Barcelona. As I said, I'm going to focus on the legal stuff in the second half of the week. I really want to take the time to understand that. So don't worry, I will see you soon. And as always, until next time, Forza Barca.